Yes, man. So
in the account of death and resurrection of Jesus, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, what is the difference between Islam and Christianity? How do they differ in terms of the death and resurrection of Jesus?
Let me start with the ascension, because Christians believe that after he died and he resurrected from the dead, he ascended to heaven.
Right.
Muslims also believe that Jesus ascended into heaven. And many don't realize this because the Quran says, "Bal rafa'ahu Allahu ilayhi," but God raised him to himself. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا, and God is mighty and wise. So Muslims share with Christians this understanding that Jesus was raised into heaven. Muslims also believe that Jesus will come again, and that is a shared belief with our Christian friends. Now, when it comes to the crucifixion itself, Muslim classical commentators on the Quran had said that Jesus was not put on the cross, but somebody else was made to look like Jesus, and in that moment of confusion, that other person was put on the cross instead. Christians insist that based on the Gospels, it must have been Jesus on the cross, and they think that this is now a solid point of history, and they ask why should Muslims contend that what is known to be a historically proven fact. Whether it is historically proven or not, this is a separate question, but if one were to go to the Gospels and look at them carefully, one would realize that there is some doubt in the Gospels themselves as to whether Jesus actually died at the time when it was commonly believed that he died. You see, nobody checked his pulse. Nobody actually verified medically whether he was actually dead. They just presumed him to be dead. And when a request was made to Pilate, the Roman governor, for the body to be released from the cross so that he could be given a decent burial, Pilate marveled as to whether he had died so soon, because usually crucifixion took a few days to kill a person. And Jesus, by all accounts, was there on the cross only for a few hours. So probably he wasn't dead then. So the Quran is basically saying, as for their boast that they killed Jesus, son of Mary, مَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. They killed him not, nor crucified him, but so it appeared to them. Abdul Majid Daryabadi, in his Tafsir al-Quran, explains the word crucifixion as meaning to kill a person by means of crucifixion. It's not just the crucifixion itself, but it's a method of execution. So as a method of execution, it failed on that occasion. To me, this is what the Quran is saying. They killed him not, and in case they were thinking, but wait a minute, we crucified him, the Quran is saying, well, you didn't even do that, did you? Because if you look back at the records, you will see that there was some doubt. This explains why in Matthew's Gospel it says that the Jews who wanted him dead, it came back the next day, which was the day of the Sabbath. Because the crucifixion occurred on the Friday, they said, and then the Sabbath is the Saturday. The Jews came back and they went to Pilate and they said, well, wait a minute, seal up the tomb, lest the disciples will come, steal his body away, and then they will proclaim that he resurrected from the dead, and then the second deception would be greater than the first. What did they think was the first deception? You see, they left the scene on Friday thinking that Jesus would be dead. They had requested that the legs of the crucified victims be broken, but only the other two victims had their legs broken, and Jesus' legs were spared. So what's the purpose of breaking the legs? One theory is that by breaking the legs, you hasten death. So the Jews left the scene thinking that his legs would be broken, he'll be done for. They heard later on that his legs weren't broken, and now they're saying, well, wait a minute, seal up the tomb, because the next thing you know, he'll come out of the tomb alive, and then they will say that he resurrected from the dead. So they themselves had some doubt. This is why the Quran says, وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ. Those who differ about him are in doubt concerning the matter. مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ. They have no knowledge concerning the matter, إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ, except that they follow some conjecture. They just supposed that he was dead, but he wasn't actually dead. So it seems to me that this is what the Quran is saying. They thought they had him dead, but they didn't kill him for certain. That's why the verse ends by saying, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا, but they didn't kill him for certain.
Thank you very much for that clarification.